Okay. So we've been focusing on the holding environment this month. And I just wanted to start by acknowledging that I've certainly noticed that for me, it's been a tough process this month trying to establish and set up a nourishing and spacious holding environment. It often sounds like a really good idea, and I kind of crave it and want that as I come to the practice. And then it kind of quickly can feel very contracted and tight, or can feel like my holding environment is kind of collapsing very easily or is very flimsy. And then there's kind of that overwhelm and irritability and distraction. So I doubt that I'm alone in this, but I just wanted to name that if you're struggling, with the practice or with setting up and maintaining this idea of a holding environment for yourself and for your practice, you're really not alone. Um, it's really hard to hold space for ourselves, within ourselves, and for everything that's happening right now. And I still believe that it's very worthy of our effort and attention, right? So, this idea of the holding environment that we've been with, how can we be intentional without forcing or demanding that anything happen? Just a way to orient and expand our capacity to be with what's here and what's moving through moment to moment. And I thought today, people have been just sharing these really great ways to explore how to create and strengthen the holding environment internally, externally. And I thought today we could explore a little bit how to use the elements of nature with this. Um, and so we can get curious, right? Thinking about the elements of earth, air, fire, and water. If there's a way to bring some of those energies to support our practice or bring some balance that might be needed into our holding environment. And so I thought I would just go through each and share a little bit about how this may be possible. And then toward the end, share a little bit about how this also connects to our Vipassana practice, of course, and can move us into that. And so if we consider earth element, I know Lori last week talked about strength, right? Strength and gentleness. Uh, Earth element is something we almost always begin with in this practice in the daily sit, right? We say ground, ground, breathe, calm, settle, soothe. And when we ground, we're really connecting to the earth beneath us, the ground beneath us. And earth element really is about like a kind of resistance, maybe soft, maybe hard, but there's something we're coming up against or that's supporting us underneath. And that can be a comfort. There can be a sense of steadiness. We might even feel into the earth element, the solidity of our bones, and the sense of upright and structure that that gives us. And sometimes when I'm feeling really blown about by the winds of life, or really small in relation to the world, can call in that energy of a mountain, which feels like earth element to me, and how no matter if the winds are blowing, the rains are coming, the mountain kind of has that equanimous energy to just be, stand strong and steady. And I'll really just visualize that, right? Like mountain energy. Um, and then we can think about also the nourishing qualities of the earth, how flowers and trees, bugs, right, get their nourishment from the earth in so many ways, how alive earth element can be. So we could even think about that, like ourselves as a flower and rooted into the earth. And I also thought about how earth element, at least for me, really helps us remember our fundamental belonging. And that can be nourishing, that we're not alone. We belong to the earth. And I think about the Buddha touching the earth on the night of his enlightenment. And then air element. Air really is about movement and change and space. And so if we're coming to the cushion and things are feeling very stagnant or stuck, we need some space, some wind to move our energies around or bring some energy, liven it up, lighten it up. Air element or wind can be a great element to call in. Sometimes when my mind is coming in cramped or the body is coming in cramped and tight, whew, right? We do this at the beginning again. We invite not just the breath, but air element to kind of move things a little bit, open up some space. And we can let ourselves feel into the space around us, right? The space within us for various thoughts and feelings. The stories in our mind can have much more space. And sometimes air element, that idea of wind, it can be very active, like we might need that kind of wind to clear us out. And sometimes there can be benefit to bringing in the air, wind when it's calm and still, when there isn't so much noise traveling on the air. And of course, breath with air, right, connects us to all living beings. Similar to earth element, can remind us that we're not alone, that we're dependent on nature in every moment. Mm. I was thinking too about this idea of air and space, and that sometimes space also brings this idea for me of distance. So sometimes when I'm sitting and again, things feel just so right here, can be helpful to almost imagine myself like a bird, right? Flying high above it all, able to get just a little bit of perspective on what's showing up in here or what's happening that feels so overwhelming. And then fire, fire element. Fire brings warmth and energy, energizing. So as we set up the holding environment, if we're feeling kind of sluggish or dull or unmotivated or numb, I think fire energy can be helpful. The warmth of metta or compassion, some welcoming, opening the door to ourselves, bringing a cup of tea to ourselves. We talk about that sometimes too as we set up the practice. Sometimes we can come to the cushion feeling just sort of alone or forced, and just that little bit of warmth can help us feel like, ah, the sun is shining again. I can bring that in, can welcome myself here. And I thought about how fire also connects to light. And sometimes I really need that in my holding environment, a little bit of illumination and clarity, clear seeing, like bringing in a candle. And some people might even light a candle in your environment when you meditate to bring this in. And fire, of course, is purifying as well, transforming. It's used in so many rituals, in so many traditions. And so it can also sort of bring release, some heat to release and let things move through rather than getting stuck. And finally, water element. Even just as I say that, right? You might already feel just like, oh, the nourishing quality of water, what it's like when rain falls on really dry, parched earth, how everything comes alive. And so sometimes we really need that kind of quenching energy, maybe literally drinking water before our practice, uh, or the image of kind of really gradually bringing our bodies into a body of water. Water also brings a sense of fluidity. It moves with things, it goes with gravity. There's a sort of allowing and surrendering with water that sometimes we might want to invite in, or that experience of letting go and floating, if you've ever experienced that. Bill often talks about coming down beneath the surface waves as we set up the practice, and that is really helpful to me. As a kid, and even now, I often would swim really deep under the water. Uh, and the sounds are so different. Everything is quieter. And so there is that, if we bring in that sense of kind of going deeper, we're slowing down, we're moving away from the surface waves of the mind and the world. And we can also think of water as cleansing, right? Similar to fire, used in a lot of rituals. Cooling, water cools the fires. So if we're coming into the practice feeling kind of on fire, right? Crackling with a lot of intensity or hot, scattered, can bring some water energy in to cool that down kindly. And so as we can kind of invite these elements in to establish the holding environment, to nourish us, to balance us, I also want to name that the Buddha taught that meditating on the qualities of these elements as they make up our bodies can be a very important practice that helps cultivate an awareness of impermanence, an understanding of suffering, and especially feeling like a felt sense of not self or non self, anatta. Right? So, as we sense the earth of the bones and certain organs, the water, the fluids in the body, the fire, the heat in our body, and the breath, the air that we're breathing, the gases in the body, that all of that can actually be an object of contemplation in our practice, in our Vipassana practice. And so I just want to offer that we can invite these qualities in to set up and really strengthen our holding environment. And as it feels right, it's a tough practice. We can also kind of meditate on these elements as impermanent, as here, but not self. Yeah. So thank you so much for your attention. And yeah, let's just take some time to transition into practice together. And let's give that a little bit of time, whatever way feels right for you today. Maybe moving, stretching. If you need to be really gentle and slow, or maybe you need a little more shaking out or standing up, letting the energy move. Mm. And maybe using the breath, the air to kind of freshen things up or lighten things. In breath, often a little bit cooler, which can be relaxing to bring some coolness in. Mm. And find your way in your own time. Find your way to a posture that feels really supportive. And sometimes I like to just kind of move the torso, sway or in circles just to feel for a little bit of balance where the spine can be upright, but I can also feel that support of the earth underneath me. And lets my body relax. Excuse me. And lets my body relax a little more. And always on offer also is to bring a hand to the body and kind of feeling that contact, whether it's on the chest or the belly, or maybe hands resting on the legs. And just really gently see where in the body might begin to soften even a little bit more. And noticing what it's like to begin to slow down. Maybe the 900th time you've slowed down today, or maybe just the first. But bringing a lot of patience and kindness to that. And if you'd like, no pressure. If there was any aspect of an element that you sensed you might like to invite in or might help nourish or balance you today, just feel free to breathe that in either in an image or just the energy of that. See if it's possible, moment to moment, to keep bringing patience and gentleness to this process and practice. Go, it's like this now. I'm caught in a story, body tightening and spacing out. Can we receive that and be okay with that? And tend to our inner holding environment with care. Tend to the body, mind, and heart with some care and wisdom. Thank you so much. Really lovely to be with you all and sit with you today. Very nourishing. Let me let everyone unmute. Let's see. There we go. All right. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful to
Thank
be
you.
with you
Beautiful.
today.
Great,
everyone.
great thoughts. And,
Thank you,
so
Catherine.
much.
thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone. Oh, have a great day. Good to see you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.